Okay, let's start looking at how I can use Musescore to write music for pipe band, pipe band drumming specifically, but you can also use it for bagpipes. All right, so here we have just something that I've set up for tenor that I use for some of my students, and you can see that we have options for right and left sticking and different cymbals. And the way that I do things in Musescore, if you have Musescore 4 installed, is I'm going to just open a new file to sort of get you started on this. It's showing me option to create a new score. The way that I'm doing this these days is I usually use concert snare. Well, they don't have concert snare anymore, so we're going to use bass drum. And I just use that because it gives me a uniline staff to use. And this is opening up on a different monitor. So here's this. So now I have an untitled score. And the thing that I do first is I go into, actually, I'm going to show you this, this Google Drive folder that I have here. So I have some pipe band templates here in this folder, and then I have style and drum set files. If you download these, then that will give you an option. It'll give you some things that you can load that let you make it look like more like the way that we would expect snare and bass and tenor notation to work. So that is downloaded here, and I've just got this in here, and I'll just put it on another window for now. We've got our untitled score. So I'm going to start by going to the format window, load style. And then I'm going to go to where I downloaded this, and I'm going to open this band music style 2025 file. And you can also mess around with the style that you like, but this is what I tend to use. What this doesn't do is it doesn't set it up to have 4 bars on every line, but you can also do that by doing measures per system, and it defaults to 4, and I can click OK. And then I have 4 measures on every line. You can also put a different number in there if you want to. So then the next thing I need to do, if I want to be able to enter notation, like right now, if I'm entering notes, they just all end up on the line, which is what a lot of people want for bass drum music in sort of a concert setting, but it's not what we want for pipe band stuff. So I'm going to, I usually right click on here. They've changed it a little bit. Customize kit. This used to be called edit drum set or drum kit in previous versions, but if you're looking at it now with the latest version 4.5.1, it is customize kit. And here you can see that this is just like you type A and that's what you get, and it'll be on the line. That's what it's showing there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load this. I'm going to go back into my downloads, style and drum set files. I'll do this for snare drum. And so we're going to I'll open this, and I'm just going to ignore that it says it might not be able to load it, and because it can. And this basically gives me some different options. The main ones that we're going to care about are G and F for a right hit or a left hit. And then so I will just apply that, hit OK. Now I have all these different options. I'm primarily going to work with the letter G and the letter F. So I'm typing those on it basically is set up so that G is on the right and F is on the left. So if you were doing a series of, same size notes, it sort of processes them as left and right. So if I wanted to enter quarter notes, I can click here, or you can see here, it has the number 5. So I could also, like if I was on some other thing, I could type the number 5, and that would give me, it would highlight this note up here. That gives you the value of the note. And then if I type G, it gives me a quarter note above the line. If I type F, it gives me a quarter note below the line. And just one additional comment, I think that this thing often like pops up right in the way every time I use, like, every time I click on something, but I usually try to like dock it down here because it's really in the way if it's like popping up right in front of me. And then if I wanted to do eighth notes, same thing, it's number 4. And I can just type eighth note sometimes, or wait, that didn't take. One thing that seems to happen is if I hit escape to like get out of notation mode, then it doesn't, and I click 4. I think what happened there with that error was I wasn't in notation mode when I clicked 4, and then I clicked on that half rest that was there. There was a half rest, and then when I typed G, it gave me a half note instead of the 4 that I clicked. So if you're ever in sort of a weird note, you're not sure if you're in notation mode, you can click escape, and that will get you into sort of just this mode that'll let you click on things. You can see up at the top here that this is whatever value I click on, with the exception of this. Oh, I guess that's just, it's saying that it's a rest rather than the value of it. Whatever note I click on, it goes back to selecting this type up here, the type of note that it is. So going back here, if I wanted to make this into an eighth note, I type 4, and then it'll let me sort of continue to enter eighth notes. And this actually is demonstrating something kind of relevant, especially to pipe bands. So we have all of these notes, but in 4/4 time, they shouldn't be beamed together. There are a couple ways to handle that. And one of these ways is actually with palettes. And I think I actually need to add palettes to the Google Drive folder. So I'll be right back, and I'm going to do that. All right, so now you can see in this folder, I have added a subfolder called palettes. In here, we've got snare notation, tenor notation, time signatures, and useful items. This MPB stands for Musescore pipe band. The time signature one is the one that we're going to use. And to actually load one of these, you'll see that you have palettes along here. They're not necessarily going to look exactly like mine because I have a custom setup that I don't want to mess around with. But if you click on, it's sort of a weird way to do it. If you click on one of them and click on the 3 dots, then you can load a palette. So I'm going to open palettes, and then I'm going to load this one called time signatures. And time signatures, now I have 2 of them, but basically it's just some specific pipe band related time signatures. And so now I have my time signatures up here. And now any one of these I can just drag onto a bar. If I take the 4/4 one though, it will actually replace the standard 4/4 time signature, which will beam these beats correctly so that they're not tied together. But I actually want to, I want to show you one thing about if they're beamed incorrectly, how to solve that. There is a default time signatures palette here. So I'll just show you it with this. It does this. If you click on a note, then this annoying thing will pop up, but you can go to, you might not see this palette by default, but if you type beam, it'll give you some things for beam properties, and you can click on this one here that will make a break in the beam to the left of the note you have selected. It gets really tedious to have to do this on like every beat though, so it's nice if you can just use the MPB version of this. And another way that you can get into that is you can right click on this and on the time signature itself, edit the time signature properties. That pops up this window. And then you can go in and you can see that I've actually already set these up to break up the eighth notes. But if I wanted to mess around with it, I could like do this sort of thing, which is not what I actually want to do, but it would change the beaming on all of those. But I can reset it and then it won't change anything. And I'm going to hit cancel. So that gives you some information about editing. Now, if you were wanting to have a rest somewhere, like perhaps if I was over here and I wanted to, actually, I'm going to see if I can dock this. So now if I dock this, it won't keep popping up in the way, which is something you're probably going to have to deal with. In this bar here, if I wanted to have some rests, like quarter rests, if I just click on that, it's going to make those first two quarter rests. But another thing that I can do is if I click on this note and type 5, that will break that up into quarter rests. Or sorry, it was a rest. I broke it up into 2 quarter rests instead of 1 half rest. And then the other thing I could do is like if I entered this note and then later I needed to make it a rest, I could turn it into a rest by typing 0. So your main entry keys that you're going to be using are G, F, and 0. The number 0, not the letter O. So then down here, if I was working entirely in quarter notes, I could go G, G, 0, G, F, 0, F, F. And then maybe if I wanted to switch to eighth notes, then I type 4. You can see up at the top here, I changed it to eighth notes. And then maybe I have eighth rest, followed by a left, right, left. Maybe right, left, right, right, for a paradiddle. And then maybe I end on a quarter note on the left. And that sort of, so that's that quarter note that was, I typed 5 and then I typed F and that gave me that quarter note. I find it's a lot faster to be using keystrokes rather than moving my mouse around and clicking. It does seem to let you like click on something and then like click the spot you want to put it. But I find that really tedious, but maybe that's something that'll work fine for people as well. So that is how you can kind of get things set up for editing and entering notation for pipe band music with Musescore 4. I want to, just before we go, I want to introduce a couple other palettes for you that I have here. I'm going to load them. Of course, they're lost. Here they are. Snare notation, tenor notation, and MPB useful items. So useful items are things that I just find I'm reaching for all the time. A lot of them are things like if I wanted to number this part, I usually put my numbers here. I use a rehearsal mark, and then I might change that to a 1 for the first part. And if I wanted to use repeat signs, I find the repeat signs a little tricky. It would be nice if it worked like Sibelius, where you could do the whole thing and then just like, if then it would give me a repeat here at the beginning, but it doesn't work like that. So I use Control Z to undo. That's something I didn't mention. Control Z and Control Shift Z on Mac, but probably Control Y would work on PC. So you have to click the bar that you want the repeat on, and same with this one. And things like slurs or ties can be useful. You can also use this up here. And another thing that can be really useful is these for if you needed to have a new page. Like if I only wanted this much on a certain page, if I click this page break button, I can zoom out using my mouse wheel and command. And I think I called the command button control earlier, but hopefully you knew what I meant. Then it breaks the page to the next page, which can be nice. Or system break is like the carriage return, essentially. And you can also use either enter return or command and then enter return for that. And another really, really handy thing that we probably will use a lot is that if you click on a note and you command or control and then the letter T, it brings you a text box. So if you needed to type the name of a tune, that's maybe where you would put that. And you can change under properties, you can change things like the font and the size, and even do things like put a box around it and that kind of thing. So that can be a really useful thing to have. I think that that covers, oh, one other little thing is dotted notes. If you click on a note in a pair of eighth notes and click this dot, you can also use the period key on your keyboard. It automatically makes this dot cut notation that is so common in pipe bands. You can also do a dotted note without like if I think it generally just takes it from the next note, that extra half a note. So that seems to be the way that works, but it can get tricky if you want to do the opposite. If you want to do the opposite and have a cut note and then a dotted note, you have to make that note smaller, in this case by making it into a 16th note. And then I'd have to put a new note here, which would be I'd click eighth note or type 4 and then the dot or period, and then I could enter a note that is a dotted note. So that's just sort of like little tedious things that sometimes come up. You can also change how the beams are set up. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all for coming to watch this video. And let me know if you have any questions. Have a good day.